Welcome, everyone. Today, we are diving into a critical administrative capability within Microsoft Entra ID, assigning, modifying, and reporting on licenses. In a modern cloud environment, how you govern service access dictates both your security posture and your IT budget. Let's get started and transform your licensing strategy. Let's establish our baseline. Microsoft Entra ID acts as the foundational identity engine for all Microsoft cloud services. Whenever you assign a license for Microsoft 365, Enterprise Mobility plus Security, or Dynamics 365, Microsoft Entra is quietly managing that state in the background. Why is mastering this so important? Because licenses are expensive, and giving users access to services they don't need violates the principle of least privilege. Now, a critical operational update you must be aware of. As of September 2024, Microsoft moved the user interface for license assignments out of the Azure and Entra portals. To assign licenses via a graphical interface, you must now use the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Don't worry if you aren't an Exchange admin. Your standard Entra roles like License Administrator or User Administrator automatically grant you the necessary access to the M365 portal to handle these exact tasks. For automation, your existing PowerShell scripts and Graph API calls will continue to function exactly as they always have. Take a look at this architecture flow. On the left, we have you, the IT administrator. Notice that your pathways have diverged. For graphical, click-through management, you are now routing through the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. However, for your automated workflows, you still route directly through the Microsoft Graph API or PowerShell. Both of these management pathways converge back into the Microsoft Entra ID engine. Entra ID remains the ultimate source of truth, taking your commands and applying the actual license states to your users and security groups across the cloud ecosystem. If you are assigning licenses to individual users one by one, you are doing it the hard way. Enter group-based licensing. This feature allows you to attach a product license directly to a Microsoft Entra security group. The basic mechanics are brilliant in their simplicity. When a new hire is added to the group, Entra automatically grants them the attached license. When they leave the company and are removed from the group, the license is instantly revoked. Why is this a game changer? Because it completely eliminates the need for custom, fragile PowerShell scripts to manage basic onboarding and offboarding. It scales effortlessly. You simply create a security group in Entra, pop over to the M365 Admin Center, and tie the license to that group. Now, you might wonder what happens if a user is in the Sales group, which grants M365E3, and the Managers group, which also grants M365E3. Entra is smart enough to calculate the net sum. The user gets the services, but only one single license seat is consumed. This state diagram illustrates the zero-touch lifecycle of a user under group-based licensing. We start with an unlicensed user. Through standard HR onboarding, they are added to the group. This triggers the Entra processing engine in the background, which provisions the services and transitions them to a licensed user. They stay in this state until HR offboarding occurs. They are removed from the group, which signals Entra to automatically strip the licenses, securely returning them to the unlicensed state and freeing up the license for the next hire. No manual IT intervention is required. Before we dive into assigning licenses, we must address the single most common reason license assignments fail, the usage location property. What is it? It's a simple two-letter country code on the user's Entra profile. However, its impact is massive. Microsoft legally cannot provision certain services in specific countries due to local laws and embargoes. Therefore, Microsoft Entra ID enforces a strict rule: you absolutely cannot assign a license to a user if their usage location is blank. If you drop a user into a license group and they lack this property, the assignment will fail and they will be flagged with an error. How do we fix this? You can manually edit the user's profile in the Entra Admin Center, but the enterprise best practice is to automate it. Configure your HR system or Microsoft Entra Connect to populate the usage location attribute the moment the account is created. While Entra will try to fall back to the tenant's default location, relying on that is risky for global organizations. Let's walk through the exact logic Entra uses during assignment. When a group license assignment is initiated, the engine first asks, does the user have a usage location? If yes, it checks if that location is legally supported for the product. If no, it attempts to inherit the tenant's default location. If the final location is supported, the user flows to the green box, license successfully provisioned. But if the location is unsupported or embargoed, the flow drops to the red box, assignment fails. The user is flagged, and the administrator must intervene to correct the compliance issue. Let's talk about granular control. When you buy a license like Microsoft 365 E5, you aren't just buying one thing. You're buying a bundle of dozens of individual service plans, things like Exchange Online, SharePoint, Teams, and Sway. Often, businesses aren't ready to deploy everything at once. This is where modifying licenses becomes crucial. When you assign a product license to a group, you don't have to give them the whole bundle. You can selectively toggle individual service plans off. Why do this? Imagine you are doing a phased rollout. You want the marketing team to have Word and Excel today, but you want to block access to Microsoft Teams until their formal training next month. In the M365 Admin Center, during the assignment flow, you simply expand the Turn Apps and Services On or Off section and uncheck Teams. One deep dive warning: when Microsoft releases a brand new service into an existing bundle, it defaults to On. You must monitor release notes and actively disable new services if your organization isn't ready for them. This class diagram visualizes how a top-level product license translates into a customized deployment. The top class represents the M365 E5 product license, containing all its inherent service plans. The bottom class represents our specific marketing group assignment. We have taken the master template and tailored it. We kept Exchange and SharePoint enabled, but we explicitly flagged Teams and Yammer as disabled. This customized object is what Entra actually applies to the users in the marketing group, giving you absolute control over the rollout pace. Because group-based licensing is so powerful, it processes asynchronously in the background. This means if an error occurs, it doesn't pop up instantly on your screen. Instead, the user is placed into a licensing error state. It is your job to monitor for this. In the M365 Admin Center, under the Licenses tab, you might see a group flagged with errors and issues. Why does this happen? The two most common culprits are not enough licenses, meaning your tenant literally ran out of available seats, and conflicting service plans. A conflict happens if a user already has Exchange Plan 1 from a direct assignment, and your group tries to push Exchange Plan 2. Entra will halt the assignment to prevent breaking the mailbox. You can view exactly who failed and why under the Action Needed tab. Crucially, Microsoft Entra ID will never guess how to resolve a conflict. You must intervene. Once you fix the root cause, you must manually click the Reprocess button to force the system to try the assignment again. Here we see the remediation loop for licensing errors. Background processing attempts the assignment. If a conflict is detected, the flow diverts upward, dumping the user into the error state. The system pauses here indefinitely. The admin must view the action needed report, resolve the root cause like unassigning a conflicting license, and then, critically, the admin must click Reprocess. This action feeds the user right back into the start of the background processing loop. If the conflict is truly gone, it flows to the green assignment successful node. Governance requires visibility. You must be able to report on your licensing posture. For basic, day-to-day metrics like how many E5 licenses you own versus how many are available, you simply use the M365 Admin Center's Billing tab. But what if you need forensic auditing? What if your security team asks who granted the engineering group premium access yesterday? For that, we pivot to the Microsoft Entra audit logs. By filtering the logs to the group management category and the set group license activity, you can see the exact administrator who made the UI change. But we can go even deeper. Because group processing happens in the background, you can filter the initiated by actor to Microsoft Entra group-based licensing. This reveals the system's internal heartbeats. You will see exact timestamps for start applying group-based license to users and finish applying. If you just added 10,000 users to a group, this audit trail is how you verify the massive background job completed successfully. This sequence diagram maps the audit trail generated during a group assignment. The admin initiates the action in the M365 portal. Immediately, an audit event is fired, stamping the admin's name on the set group license action. The portal hands the heavy lifting off to the background engine. The engine logs its own starting heartbeat, churns through the thousands of users, and finally logs a finishing heartbeat. As an auditor, querying these three specific log events gives you a perfect, undeniable timeline of who requested the change, when it started, and when it finished. Let's apply this to a real-world, high-stakes scenario. Your enterprise just acquired a company in Germany, and you are onboarding 500 new sales representatives. Historically, IT would receive 500 individual help desk tickets, manually verify each user's region, and manually assign 500 licenses. That is unacceptable overhead and prone to human error. Instead, we architect a zero-touch solution. Step 1. We leverage Entra ID to create a dynamic security group. We set a simple rule: if the user's department equals sales and their country equals Germany, they are automatically pulled into this group. Step 2. We go to the M365 Admin Center and assign the regional Microsoft 365 E3 license specifically to this dynamic group. That is it. IT is done. Now, when HR creates the new employee record, Entra syncs the attributes, the dynamic engine sweeps the user into the group, and the group-based licensing engine grants them immediate access to their email and Teams. Zero IT touch. Ultimate operational efficiency. This is the architecture of zero-touch IT. The process originates outside of IT entirely, over in the HR system. As the data flows through the Entra ID sync, the dynamic rule engine acts as our automated gatekeeper. Because the user's attributes match our logic, they are slotted directly into the DE sales group. This group is pre-wired to the group-based licensing engine, which instantly issues the M365 E3 payload. The employee arrives on day 1, logs in, and is immediately productive. The pipeline is fully automated and entirely secure. To conclude our masterclass, we must look at advanced management. While the M365 Admin Center is great for visuals, enterprise engineers rely on Microsoft Graph PowerShell. You use this to programmatically query and modify your entire tenant. One of the most important administrative tasks you will face is migrating a legacy tenant from messy, direct license assignments to clean, group-based licensing. How do you find the direct assignments? You connect to Graph and run getMGuser, specifically expanding the license assignment state's property. Inside that property is a flag called Assigned by Group. If that flag is populated with a group ID, the user is properly inheriting their license. But if that flag is null, you have found a direct assignment. You can script this logic to iterate through 100,000 users, dump all the direct assignments to a CSV, and then programmatically invoke setMGuserLicense to strip those direct assignments away. By mastering Graph PowerShell, you ensure your licensing architecture remains pristine, compliant, and deeply automated. This final flowchart demonstrates the programmatic logic for cleaning up a tenant. The script calls getMGuser and dives into the license assignment states array. It acts as a sorting mechanism. If the assigned by group property contains an ID, the object routes left to the green compliant state. If it is null, it routes right, identifying a non-compliant direct license. We capture that data in a CSV report and then feed that report into our remediation command, setMGuserLicense, which strips the direct license, forcing the user to rely entirely on your pristine group-based architecture.